I'm hosting the show.
Well, that was a little bit of a snafu here. Seth and Sean Sports. Seth is right here. He was, and we're on. You have a Giants hat on today. Are you repping for a reason, or was that just?
No, it was the hat I grabbed to walk the dog.
Okay, just making sure. Wondering if you all of a sudden have Daniel Jones syndrome coming into the draft, and whether that is. Look, I've seen a couple of mock trades for the Giants trading up to get Caleb Williams, and I look at it and go, sure, why not?
Me. What, the first rounds, 3 second rounds, and Thibodeau? Is that what you saw?
Yeah. I saw. It's a lot. It's a lot. Yeah, it's ridiculous. If you want a QB, go in the second round or third round to get a QB. First round stock.
They have two second round picks because of the Leonard Williams deal.
Right.
If Penix is there and they want to take a run at him, fine. No. You're not trading three.
Would you trade both your seconds, a third, and the first to go up to 2? Both your seconds.
I know.
Third to go up to 2.
I don't think so.
I think it would actually take more, but I'm just asking if that would.
Yeah, I don't think so. I mean, they have so many needs.
Yep.
And, they can go, look, they need a wideout, they need a corner, they need an offensive lineman.
Yep.
In my mind, look, if you can get a quarterback at 42 or whatever their early second round, fine. But bringing Caleb Williams with this offensive line ain't going to do anybody any good anyway.
Right.
And I don't know if Caleb Williams is built for New York, to be perfectly honest. So
we don't know if Caleb Williams is built for anywhere. I mean, look, all these guys are I've heard Tim Hasselback say it's Drake May or bust, right? I've heard other people say it's Caleb Williams or bust. I've heard somebody actually said that they would take Jaden Daniels first overall over the other two, that he is the biggest upside. None of us know. None of us know. I mean, there was somebody, and I can't remember who, it was posted the other day just as a reminder, that said, Andre Wadsworth, absolutely. Take him, number 1 overall. And you know who went number 1 overall in that draft? Peyton Manning.
Yeah, that was in the Peter King article.
Yeah, okay. Well, okay, so a couple of things before we start. One, a retirement, right? Peter King retires. I think he's been the most influential writer for football, I would believe, probably in the last 20 years. You could go further back, but certainly in the last 20 years. Mike Florio said, look, there's only one Peter King. You cannot replace him. You will just have to endure, and I think that is correct. I know you and I, for the last, at least 15 years, since we started talking, have read him every week.
How many times have we cited him on the show?
Right.
Something from his. He was enjoyable to read. He, as you said, he took criticism. He was willing to have people criticize him and understood it was professional, not personal. And then when it was personal, it didn't bother him.
Correct. So
he didn't relay it that it did.
Right. Seth and I had a conversation offline where I said the greatest thing about King's column is that if you wanted to criticize him, he would print your criticism. He's like, you don't think that politics is worthy of speaking in this column? He'd be like, that's great. That was 1% of my column last week. You can skip that 1%. That's okay. And he took it with a grain of salt, right? Where it wasn't snarky. It was factual. It was 1% of my column. It was 4% of my column. I wrote 30,000 words last week, and you took the 25 and focused on that. And I enjoyed, look, there are some parts of his column that I certainly enjoyed more than others. I really didn't enjoy his stuff where he was on video. It just never resonated with me. And that's okay. He didn't care. Or he cared. I'm sure he cared, but he didn't push his agenda more than that. He didn't get snarky. He didn't say, "Don't read me." He's like, if you don't like it, don't read this part. There's 80% more of that where it came from. So I'd like to say, not that he listens to our show, not that he watches our show, but if he does,
It'd be nice if he was one of the millions of people who did.
happy trails, my friend. You will certainly be missed, no question. You got two. I know that you had written. He had actually asked for people to write him this week. I will be doing that tomorrow. I know you have done that already, and we look forward to seeing what you got next. And I will read it. It does not matter what it is. It could be on politics.
It's like you reading Poznanski for baseball.
Yeah. And I loved it. I mean, I love that 100, the 100 players. Like, I read every single one of them. Yeah.
Do you pay for Poznanski's blog?
I do not read Poznanski's blog. I probably should. I do not. If this wasn't sad enough, in sadder news, it was announced today that Tim Wakefield's widow passed away from cancer.
Did she really?
Yeah. So 5 months.
Jeez.
5 months after Stacey Wakefield, nearly 5 months to the day after Tim Wakefield died on October 1st. He died at 57. It does not give how old Stacey was, but I assume it wasn't much older or much younger than Tim Wakefield. And so she died of cancer today as well. And at the time, if you remember, Kurt Schilling had said both of them were suffering from cancer, said that basically out loud. And look, that it goes back to when you are a widow and you've been married for X amount of years, and Lord knows I don't know this other than seeing it through other people. At this point, you've lived in a situation long enough that you don't have it anymore. I mean, I said it with my grandparents who were married 65 years, that you needed to give that person something to live for, because at the same time, I can't imagine being a partner with somebody that long and then one day waking up and that person's not there anymore. I just can't. I mean, for better or for worse, I don't have it right now. But
do they have kids?
They did. They have 2 kids, Trevor and Brianna, who were born in 2004 and 2005. So they are 20 and 19, which makes it just even worse. Condolences go out to the whole Wakefield. Again, not sure if they listen or watch the program, but condolences go out to friends, family, and everybody else of the Wakefields. And as we discussed when Tim Wakefield passed away, nobody said a bad word about him. Not one. Not one. So yeah. And again, we talk about this all the time, that sports is an escape from the real world. This is real world stuff. We escape. We're going to spend the next 40 to 45 minutes escaping from the real world, and we hope you listen to us and watch us and do it every week the way you normally do. And so here we are. Okay, so one thing we discussed last week before we go on to NHL Deadline is who would you trade? You have a choice. Trae Young or DeJounte Murray in the offseason? Well, for the next 4 weeks, and Seth, you're going to have to take this for a second because I got to drop off.
Okay, for the next 4 weeks, I don't have the slightest idea what the hell he's talking about, other than we're going to probably be discussing this because it's a weird, quiet time. We have baseball's in the beginning of preseason. Hockey is in no man's land. That was damn quick. So what happens in 4 weeks?
Sneakers.
The trade deadline is not 4 weeks away, is it?
Well, the NBA trade deadline's already happening. So for 4 weeks, Trae Young has a broken finger. So you're going to see DeJounte Murray running that Atlanta Hawks team. And you're going to see what kind of effect DeJounte Murray has on that Atlanta Hawks team. And while DeJounte Murray probably will not bring in the same, if you trade DeJounte Murray, you probably will not bring in the same package that Trae does. Let's say they win 60% of their games over the next 4 weeks. First of all, if you lose 60% of your games over the next 4 weeks, I doubt Trey Murray even comes back. That's number one, because at that point you'll be out of the play-in. You'll be so far out it won't matter. Let's presume they win 60 to 65% over the next 4 weeks. I think you have to question whether it's Trae Young is the problem. I mean, you're going to get if you're Jalen Johnson, if you are DeAndre Hunter, you're going to see more shots.
Yes.
Right? You're going to see more room in the lane. If you're DeJounte Murray, you're going to see the ball in your hands much more than you did before. The ball.
Yeah, I mean, Trae Young is a ball-heavy guard.
Yeah. But he also leads the league in assists. So, I mean, there's that too, right? Where he does distribute the ball, but I think the word is ball dominant, right? He dominates the ball, and with 5 seconds left, he'll find the right guy for the shot. But for the first 20 seconds on that play clock, it's in his hands. That's the way it works. So, and on defense, he's not a great defensive player. I mean, I've called him a turnstile. I think this year he's played a little bit better on defense than what I've seen, but he's still basically a turnstile. And so the question is, at this point, when you see the next 30 games, and I think they have like 35 games left, is it going to be the DeJounte Murray show, or is it going to be the Trae Young show? I think I called him Trae Murray a couple of moments ago. The Trae Young show.
So.
I did? Okay. I think there are limited teams that could take Trae Young back with that contract. I think the best place would be San Antonio.
San Antonio is not taking Trae Young.
I love that fit. I love every bit about that fit.
You think he works well with Popovich?
Well, I meant with the players, not the coach. Look, Trae Young needs that type of player, right? He needs a player that can clean up the mess. When you got 12 feet of arm behind you, that's the cleanup. I mean, I don't really know. He doesn't fit with the Lakers. He doesn't fit with the Pistons. He doesn't fit with who has $50 million also to give him on a cap room. I mean, unless you're trading your number one lead guard back, the Wizards, I guess, could do it. But
Wizards aren't. What would be the point?
Right. So give me another team, Seth. Give me somewhere where he goes. And remember, all the Hawks picks are in San Antonio. So this is basically a Miles Bridges redo, a Mikal Bridges redo. Of which you're trading him back. I mean, he could go to the 76ers. Sure. That works.
Sixers aren't trading Maxey.
Nope.
Yeah, so that doesn't work.
But Maxey's up for a max contract this year.
Would you rather have Trae Young or would you rather have Maxey?
I understand. I get it. That's what I'm trying to tell you, though. So where else is there a fit? And I think what you might find if you are the Hawks is while you might want to trade Trae Young, you'll find more of a market for DeJounte Murray because he's only at $31 million or $28 million. And you may not have to give up as much to get him. And I can see the Nets looking at a DeJounte Murray, while I would not see them looking at a Trae Young.
Yeah, I think that's pretty logical. The question is, because that gives you two number twos for the most part in Murray and Bridges, who are relatively young. And
I mean, I'm just looking around the league. I think you.
Yeah, I mean, I'm trying to think.
$1 million player, and you say perhaps.
Should I bring up our salary cap or salary structure?
Your net salary structure?
No, just in general. What is that on Hoops Hype? I can look it up.
You can look it up on Spotrac. Look, the Nets are looking to redo it all in 2025, right? Not next year, but the year after when Ben Simmons comes off that contract.
Yes.
But if you traded Ben Simmons to the Hawks for DeJounte Murray and gave up, let's say, 2 second-round picks for it at the end of this year, would you be in favor of that if you're the Nets? I think you would.
Yes. Absolutely.
So Ben Simmons would be an expiring $40 million contract for the Hawks, and for the Nets, you'd get DeJounte Murray.
Yep.
The thought.
And I like it. It gives you 2 borderline all-stars. It's because the problem is the Nets, after what happened with Durant and Harden and Kyrie, regardless of blame, the Nets are not seen as a free agent destination at this point. They're a second-tier team in their town. They're a second-tier team in the league. They're not well respected. So the way to build out is, okay, if we have some assets, we can trade out a little bit, we can get a couple players, kind of build back to the I go back to the good old days of Atkinson, because those are the good old days to me of Brooklyn. And because those teams weren't great, but man, they were fun. I think you have to make that deal.
Yeah. Okay. So I wanted to, that was just a little bit of harping on what we talked about last week. I wanted to talk, you brought up a point to me on Saturday in which you had a conversation with Jake. So I wanted to go through that, and you tell me, after he almost castrated you, what else happened? Question he asked.
I don't remember which one.
NBA players from foreign lands, Olympics. We had a long discussion about this.
We did have a long discussion about that. And so the question being,
now, this is a question from your son. This is a question from your son. So
right. So Jakey was talking about the the USA team, and I said, for the first time, I don't know how definitive of a favorite they are going after this year. And this year they'll still be the consensus favorite. But 4 years from now, when I think France has the 2 of the top 5 picks in next year's draft, and Wembanyama, and Gobert, and they have some other, and Argentina and Canada has Shai Alexander and RJ Barrett. Not that RJ Barrett is, although he's playing really well now, but we're seeing this generation of U.S. players. The great ones are not going to be back in 2028. You're not going to see Durant. You're not going to see James. You're not going to see Curry. No, I mean, assuming Curry plays in this one.
So what I did was I brought up, presuming that college players are not going to play, right, in 4 years. Let's just presume.
Agreed.
It's active NBA players now. So I brought up where everybody is playing, and I'd like you to point out a team that is going to beat the USA. So I'm going to name off some of these countries and then name off their players, and then I want you to point out a team that will beat the USA team. Okay? So
now, is this you trying to just prove a point that I'm wrong, or
yes, 100%. So Australia has their starting 5 is likely Joe Ingles, maybe, Josh Green, Josh Giddey, Dante Exum, Dyson Daniels. They don't even have a big man. And and Ben Simmons.
Okay. Obviously not.
The Bahamas has DeAndre Ayton, Eric Gordon, Buddy Hield. Probably not going to be the USA team with those 3. Brazil has nobody anymore. Canada is a good squad. Nickeil Alexander-Walker, R.J. Barrett, Cruz Boucher, Dylan Brooks, Brandon Clark, Lou Dort, Shea Gilgeous-Alexander, Trey Lyles, Benedict Mathurin, who I did not know was Canadian.
Nor did I.
Jamal Murray, Josh Primo.
Okay, so you're looking at. So let's kind of
wait. We got more. We got Shaden Sharp, who I also didn't know was Canadian, and Andrew Wiggins. So that's a good team. It is not a great team.
You have a superstar backcourt of Murray and Alexander.
Correct.
and you have serviceable players in Wiggins,
Well,
Barrett.
you have Mathurin and Barrett and Boucher as your front line, and Brandon Clark, right? That's your front line. A good team. A good team.
A team that could win on a given day, but not a better team.
Correct. Okay. Croatia has one of the Bogdanoviches, Saric, Zubac, and that's it. So that's not happening. The Congo has Kaminga and Biombo. That doesn't work either. I'm looking for a team that might act. Okay, we talked about France, right? So France has Koulibaly, who we talked about. Ousmane Dieng, Evan Fournier.
Yeah, right now they don't have the backcourt.
Rudy Gobert.
They have Gobert and Wembanyama.
Yep, and Wembanyama. Yep.
Okay, I get that. The point being, the league is trending more and more international. And who is the best U.S. player under the age of 30? Tatum, I think, to continue on how you see Embiid.
Mm-hmm.
It's Embiid 1, Tatum 2, Tatum 1, Embiid 2.
Mm-hmm. And Devin Booker's probably 3.
Booker's probably 3.
Okay.
All right. As of now, is there a trio that hits that based on what we said? Obviously not.
Well, Wembanyama, Gobert, and somebody?
Well, what I'm saying is France. We don't know.
Look, I think you can get a starting 5. I do. I think you might be able to get a starting 5 that comes somewhat close. I do. But I think that's all you're getting. You're getting.
Yeah, you may be right. I mean, you don't see the teams that have won over the years that have beaten the U.S. Like we've seen Argentina do it, but all these players are now retired. Mm-hmm. It was 2 or 3 countries. Literally, it was the U.S. and then there was France. There was Spain. Spain was wonderful for many years based on Rubio and the Gasols and Rudy Fernandez, and they're all gone. You know, I look at Argentina right now. You know, they had Nociani and they had Pepe Sanchez and Scola and Ginobili.
Look, you look at Serbia right now. So they have the other Bogdanovic. They have both. They have Jokic and Jovic, right? And we don't know what Jovic is in Miami. They have Michik, who is in now in Charlotte, right? Yep. That's 4 out of their 5, and they may supplement with some players from already Serbia. That's probably your best team, because remember, Doncic is not there. He doesn't play for that team. He plays for Slovenia. Yeah, he plays for Slovenia, not Slovakia. So if you put him on that team, well, then we might have an issue, right?
Do you want to hear that you're right? Is that
no? What I wanted to hear, truthfully, I was thinking about. I wanted to go through this in my brain, right? I wanted to see if, when it comes right down to it, for these teams, is that they don't have the depth.
No. Well, let's be fair. They don't have the depth in the NBA.
That is true. We have no idea.
We don't know EuroLeague.
So the way that the EuroLeague always won, Seth, was that they played outside of the NBA.
Yes, and they all became so well acclimated to each other that the team game was able to overcompensate for the talent disparity that the United States had, hence 2004,
right,
when everything went to hell in a handbasket. But agreed, that's gone because most of those players eventually end up in the NBA, and you don't see the same camaraderie.
Yeah, I think Jokic is. You and I talked about it this week. Like, yeah, let's go 15, 15, and 15 with not missing a shot. Jokic is basically the Michael Jordan of the 1990s and 2000s. If you want to give the MVP to somebody else, you're only giving it because you don't want to give it to Jokic. He's the best player in the league. By far. Not even close. And even more so, he's the MVP of the league that doesn't look like an MVP. He's like
No.
he's the Babe Ruth of the NBA, right? The guy that doesn't look like he should be in that spot and is in that spot anyway. And the humility that he shows is even better. Like between him and Wembanyama, this league's in a good spot for a long time. Like for those two players. So anyway, just moving off that. So I think you're right. We have trended more to the international, but with regards, I'm not sure you're going to see a more talented starting five, more talented full team, maybe a more talented starting five, a full team for an Olympic team in Jake's lifetime than the U.S.
Well, I don't know about that. I mean, look, 30 years ago, I mean, we go back to the Dream Team, which is amazingly 30 years ago. The 12 best they said the 12 best players were on one team. And the next 12 probably would have been on the US also.
Yes.
Because Sabonis was old by that point.
Sure.
There's no one else there.
Yeah, and it's not there anymore. You're right.
Right. So and now if you look at who the top 10 players in the NBA are, maybe half of them are American.
Yeah.
So I mean,
Giannis,
Luka,
Luka,
Shai.
Sure, Shai. So it's 4. So yeah, at least 4, maybe 6.
You're kind of in that range, and the ones that are at that top 10 level that are in the are not going to be there in 4 years.
No, correct. They're older players.
Durant may play till he's 50 because it just kind of feels like that's what Durant wants to do. And you know what? Good for him.
Yep.
Curry feels like he may be playing at 50 because he just enjoys it so much.
Curry's going to play until Steve Kerr retires, and then they'll retire together.
You think they'll retire together in 2 years?
100%.
Okay.
100%. In 2 years, in 4 years, in 10 years, they'll retire.
Well, Curry just signed a 2-year extension, $18 million. I don't think Joe Lacob's going to pay him more than that. So, okay. So in 4 years, let's say 2 of those 3 are gone, and Durant is, on the trending of someone who's 40 years old.
Yeah.
We don't know. You go look at the mock NBA draft for 2025.
Oh, it's awful.
Well, it's not even that it's awful. We don't know who any of these players are.
Yep.
I mean, here we go. Mock NBA. This is from Bleacher Report. Alexander Sarr, France, center.
Oh, they're all going to be
Nikolai Topic, Serbia.
Yeah, they're all going to be foreign players.
Right. Zachary Richard, French.
Yep.
Alexander Bazilis. Let me just quickly top
star. I think Nikola Topic.
Yep. Ron Holland at number 5. That's the first, and he played G League. What's going to happen to G League? Like it feels like it's irrelevant almost at this point.
What?
What's going to happen to Ignite the G League? So the whole point was these guys didn't want to play college because they want to get paid.
Right, and now they can get paid.
Yep.
Right.
So yeah, I mean we really have no feel for. There's no LeBron, there's no Wembanyama, there's no automatic, and there's no Anthony Davis or Yao, where you knew intuitively when they came out. Right.
Well, you don't know. Cooper Flag may be there, right? Cooper Flag may be there.
Yeah. Well, no, we'll see.
I mean, the whole the whole NBA draft is similar to what we start talking about in the NFL draft. It's you're projecting, right? It's more so because these guys are 19 and 18 years old as opposed to 21 and 22. But it's all about projections, right? Would you be the least bit surprised if a second round pick becomes an NBA All-Star in the next 5 years again? No.
No.
I think it's more likely now than it has been in the past.
Well, for 2 reasons. Number one, you're dealing with worldwide. You're drafting really worldwide now, not just US based. And number 2, because players are coming out at 18, 19 years old, they don't develop for another 3 years.
I would do even more so because those 22 and 23-year-olds are being pushed to the second round because that's who they are, right? Your Jaime Vasquez in Miami, he'll be an all-star at least 1 year. Like, I have no doubt. Sorry, it's not Vasquez. It's
Vasquez. Yeah.
Vasquez.
Yeah.
He's going to be an all-star 1 year. He is what he is, right? He's probably an 18-10 guy, 18-9 guy. But 1 year he's gonna play out of his mind once Jimmy Butler's gone, and he'll be an all-star. And he was a late first-round pick, but you got and people are already saying, "Well, I should have picked him." Well, you knew what he was. You went for projection. You didn't get your projection. You got him. Nothing wrong with that. But you know what you're getting when you're picking juniors and seniors in college, as opposed to the upside of the freshman, the upside of picking, I don't know, any of these guys from overseas, right? Who you've barely seen, and you certainly haven't seen against the competition that the NBA brings. So, yeah, that's what you're getting. And again, none of that is bad. It's just a different trend of the NBA. And is it going to make it more exciting? I don't know.
I don't either. If you want exciting, just watch All-Star games.
Well, if you want scoring, go watch All-Star games. I'm not sure that's excitement to you. I mean,
I haven't watched one in 20 years.
Yeah. I mean, that too, but I don't.
Did you get rid of the All-Star game?
Oh, we talked about this last week. I did not watch the All-Star game. I watched some of the skills competition, which I found much more exciting.
Right, and I watched Curry versus Serena Isianu.
Right. So,
okay. I don't know if we actually said we would get rid of it. That's.
Oh, would I get rid of the All-Star game? No, you can't get rid of the All-Star game. You can't. It's TNT's jewel.
I know. I know it's the jewel of their basketball. What do you call it? Yep.
Yeah, you're not getting rid of the All-Star game. By the way, last week, before we move on to the NHL trade deadline, Seth called me up after the show and reminded me, or at least alerted me to the fact that when I said when we talked about Mike Norris and we talked about the staff that I was talking about in the 1980 season for the Oakland A's. I didn't realize that I rattled off all those pitchers, and I didn't once say they were all on the same team. So that would be kind of important. So when you have Rick Langford pitching 290 innings, Norris pitching 284, Keogh pitching 250, McCarty pitching 221, and Kingman, the low man on the totem pole, pitching 211. And he also lost 20 games.
Yeah, he was 8-20. Who is McCarty?
Brian Kingman goes 8-20 and pitches 211 innings. Let me tell you right now, any pitcher that comes close to 20 losses is not pitching over 200 innings in today's baseball.
Who is McCarty, though? I don't remember.
Steve McCatty, excuse me.
I don't remember.
So Steve McCatty, again, part of the issue with these teams is that Billy Martin just threw them until their arms fell off. So Steve McCatty was a 25-year-old in 1979, pitched 185 innings. In 1980, he pitched 221. In 1981, he pitched 185. Then he pitched 128, 167, 179, and that he was out of baseball by 31. So I'm looking at all these guys. So Langford was out of baseball by 35. Really, his last big year was 33. Norris didn't have another good year his entire career. He was out by 28. Now, some of that was drug use. Keogh, who later was in the Ricky Henderson deal, if I had to remember, was out of baseball by 30. His last great year.
Is Ricky out of baseball yet? Or is Ricky still stealing third? Because that's what Ricky does.
And Brian Kingman's last year was 28. So, Seth, none of these guys really pitched over after 32, which basically means Billy Martin just kept running them out and out and out and said,
Billy would not have been a good manager for this generation.
I got a job to do, and you're just going to keep pitching. So, No, Billy would not have been a good manager. So there are 1,471 innings pitched for an entire season for that athletics team. 1,471. Hold on one second. 290 plus 284 plus 250 plus 221 plus 211 is 1,256 divided by 1,471. The starting staff pitched 85% of all innings that year. Just to put that in perspective, ladies and gentlemen, I'm going to go to the Oakland A's. So that was the Oakland A's in 1980. I'm going to go to the Oakland A's of 2022, where there were innings pitched. There were 1,419 innings pitched. And let's do this math. So remember, 85%. 172 plus 141 plus 109 plus 103 plus 77 plus 61 divided by 1419. So remember, 85%. Last year's starters for the Oakland A's. Do you want to take a guess at the percentage that they pitched? Innings pitched, starting pitching.
Say for this year?
Yeah, 2023. 2020. So we said 85% of all innings were pitched by starting pitchers in 1980 for the Oakland A's. What percentage of innings pitched by the Oakland A's in 2023 were pitched by starting pitchers?
I'd say somewhere around 43, 44%.
46. Well done. 46. But it just
also
tells you
they
how much
pitcher. And also, to be fair, is because their pitchers stink, and a bunch of them got knocked out so early in the first.
Well, do you want me to do even the Dodgers? I mean,
no,
the Dodgers.
No, I don't want to have this discussion.
Right. I mean, it's probably pretty simple, pretty the same. But yeah, the game's changed. Like that's the only thing that says about that. The game has changed. Okay. Moving on to the NHL deadline, which is surprisingly not even tomorrow, because tomorrow is the 29th day of February. It's on March 1st. So they get an extra day this year. For those that don't recall, what does this a leap year signify? Seth, what happens during a leap year?
Olympics and presidential election.
Summer Olympics. It used to be both Olympic games. Now it's just the Summer Olympics.
And an extra day for tax season.
And and the birth and the celebration of the birth of Tyler Weissman, Matt Weissman's kid, who was born on February 29th.
Passed.
So he turns 4 tomorrow. No, he really turns 16.
Have any trades been done in the NHL though? I've heard practically nothing.
Practically nothing. No, you are absolutely right. Basically, no trades have been made so far. A couple here and there. I mean, smaller trades. So the Penguins made one a week ago. Winnipeg. I mean, most of the trades you saw were in January. Nothing has been made recently. There's a lot of buzz around certain teams and certain players.
Right. I know the Devils were going. I know the Devils were going after Jacob Markstrom. That I knew.
Jacob Markstrom and Adam Henrique, perhaps, along with the
Rangers.
Really,
they're going retro.
Well, they might, and the Rangers may be looking at Adam Henrique as well to fill their second line center spot or third line center spot, as they have had a couple of injuries for that team. If you're looking for a team that is looking to get rid of people, for lack of a better term, look very much towards the northwest of the continent, and that would be the Calgary Flames.
Well, that's why I brought up Markstrom.
Right. You got Markstrom. You got Noah Hannafin, who's probably number 1 on the leaderboard of being traded, and Chris Tanev. Look, there is always a need for defensemen. Always. And those two guys, Tanev, I believe, has one more year on his contract. I don't believe he is a no, he is a rental. I'm sorry, he is a rental. Both Hin and Hannafin are rentals. Both make about $4.5 million. So, by the way,
is Marc-Andre Fleury going to be traded?
No, I don't see it. He's got a no trade clause, and he also likes it in Minnesota. I can't see where he would go. He makes a good amount of money too. The difference is that we don't see in that the difference between the NBA and the NHL. Now they both have salary caps, right?
Yep.
Okay. The NBA salary cap is determined. Well, you have to be in compliance with the NBA salary cap at the end of the year. Okay.
Yes.
At the end of the year. Now, throughout the entire year, you have to be in compliance in some way, shape, or form. But remember, it's a soft cap. The
Right.
NHL is not a soft cap.
No, it's a straight hard cap, I thought.
Straight hard cap. So every single day counts. So when you are accumulating a Chris Tanev at $4.5 million and say, I don't know, today there's $2.3 million left on that salary over the course of the year, you need to be able to fit in $2.3 million. Now, if you acquire him today, it's 2.3. If you acquire him tomorrow, it may be 2.275. So it does move as the year goes by. So what you're saying is we haven't seen a lot of trades because certain teams are so tight against that cap that they want to wait to the very last minute to get as little salary on that person as possible. The other thing that these teams are looking towards is retention. So unlike the NBA you cannot retain salary. You cannot say I traded Patrick Beverley for $3 million and I'm going to keep $1 million on my cap and you keep $2 million on your cap.
Right. It's an all or nothing proposition.
Now you can pay his salary, right? You can forward some money to pay that salary, but that salary still goes on the cap. The NHL allows what's called 3 retention slots. So let's presume that you have Chris Tanev and you are the New Jersey Devils who need a defenseman in the worst way because you probably lost Dougie Hamilton for the rest of the year. Yeah. And you have this salary amount. Say you only have $1 million left on your cap. By the way, they have a lot more. But let's say the Devils only have $1 million in the cap. And Chris Tanev is 2.3 for the rest of the year. So there's one of 2 ways to do this. The Devils could trade a player that is making $1.3 million and say, all right, we're going to give you a player and we're going to give you a second-round pick. The player's not great, but we're going to give you a second-round pick. Or, alternatively, the Flames could say, you know what? We got cap room this year. Don't worry about it. We'll retain it all. Oh, no, you can retain up to 50%. So let's say we'll retain 50%. And you, Devils, don't give me back a player. Give me back a first-round pick. Give me back something more. Because that way you can go out and make another trade with that money that you just saved. So there is a difference between the NHL and the NBA. And again, for anybody that cares, I'm happy to explain it more, but nobody cares. So I understand that too. The caps are.
Are you ready to be you're ready to be a capologist for any sport at this point, aren't you?
I look, I enjoyed this stuff, and it's funny how you don't enjoy it more being the numbers guy at all. Like, I love this stuff. This is exactly what I look at. I would bet I look on Spotrac at least twice a day. And when it comes to now we're talking about NFL, franchise tags. Yes, please. Let's do it. Yes, please. Speaking of franchise tags, and we'll move off we'll talk more about the NHL trade deadline next week when we see who is acquired. But your New York Football Giants have decided not to tag Saquon Barkley.
Nope.
They have decided that they want him back, as does most of these teams that say this. But I don't want to pay him $13 million. I assume you are in agreement with that strategy.
I am.
Okay. Now, are you with that strategy because Saquon is not an important valued member? He's not worth the money, a little bit of both, or you just want to start with somebody else? Is it time to say thank you, Saquon, and move on?
I don't think it's time per se, but I don't want I know your feeling is we can sign anyone for 1 year
Yep.
and be fine with it.
Well, yep. Well, you're tagging him for the second time too, so there's a big difference.
We're tagging him for the second time. Would I mind having a 2 or 3 year deal with a lower guarantee? I can live with it. Like he's a hell of a player, but he doesn't stay healthy, and we have desperate needs that need to be taken care of. And if there's one thing we've learned, that running back is a relatively replaceable position. And if we can, especially considering what the market is right now, how many people are out there? And again, I don't think any of them are Barkley.
I like the word fungible. Actually, it is a fungible asset. I'm
a fungible asset. Should you have my job?
Fungible asset. Well, some of the running backs that are out there now, and the decision by these teams not to put the franchise tag on. From Dallas, Tony Pollard. From, I was about to say Houston, but it's Tennessee, Derrick Henry. From the Raiders, Josh Jacobs. Although I firmly believe Josh Jacobs will be back in the silver and black.
Yeah, I think so too.
I think Antonio Pierce loves him too much. We just talked about Barkley. Gus Edwards is out of a job in Baltimore for now, and that may change too. All these guys may change, right? But we've seen in Najee Harris, I believe, is a free agent as well. You see from Pittsburgh, you see these players easily replaceable because they have a short shelf life. There is not Emmitt Smith does not exist anymore in the NFL. And somebody, I think it was on the Bill Barnwell show that I was listening to. Who's the highest paid running back in the NFL right now?
I assume it would be Christian. I mean, McCaffrey, I think.
It is. This was not a trick question. It is. Okay. Do you know when Christian McCaffrey's contract was signed?
2 years ago?
2021. Okay.
Pretty much 2 years.
No, I'm making a point here. So in 3 years, nobody has beaten that, right? Nobody has eclipsed that. Do you know the highest salaried player for tight end? This may trick you. It's not Travis Kelce.
I think it's Hawkinson at 5 years, $95 million.
Hawkinson's number 2.
It's not Kittle.
It is Kittle.
Is it Kittle?
It is Kittle. Kittle was signed in 2020. That's 4 years ago. And that market hasn't gone anywhere either. Meanwhile, you look at the quarterback market, right, which every 5 days seems like somebody's jumping the last person. You look at the defensive end market. You look at the linebacker market. We talked about this last week. We're talking about franchise tags. And those two positions, tight end and running back, are just not valued in the NFL.
No.
So they're disposable, which is why you may see Bowser, the guy from Georgia, the tight end from Georgia. Sorry, can't.
Blake Bowers,
excuse me. He may be a top 5 talent in the NFL. He may be a top 5 talent in the NFL draft. Seth, I don't see where he goes early. I get the point.
No, because every time we've seen a tight end go that high, Kyle Pitts, I'm looking at you.
Yep. Evan Ingram, I'm looking at you. Now, Evan Ingram had a great year last year, but it took him, 8 years to get there?
Yeah. So, I mean, it's a luxury.
And it's still an undervalued luxury. You're not I think when you being the Giants, your team, selected Saquon Barkley, you were not happy with the selection. In fact, I know you weren't. You were happy with the player. You weren't happy with where he went.
Right. To me, that's a trade down into 4 or 5.
Now,
that's who you want.
From my recollection, and my memory has been fading, I am getting older. The concept was you are immediately making this player one of the top 3 salary players in the NFL for his position by drafting him number 2. which in turn means your franchise tag is higher, which in turn means your free agency is higher, right? It escalates down that path.
Yeah.
And that may be one of the reasons, amongst others, that Bowers doesn't get picked that high, is because you're immediately putting him in the $8 million, $9 million mark, where the top tight end is only earning 14 to begin with. So do you want to put him in that salary scale to that point? Now, I'm not sure that's the case. And we have what, 3 months? No, 2 months. It's in April. 2 months to discuss this NFL draft, which I'm sure we will go through ad nauseum. But I called you the other day and I said, I need to look into this one guy. Do you remember who the one guy was?
For the draft you talking about?
I said I saw a little bit of film. I've read
Oregon State's offensive line.
Wasn't Oregon State's. One quarterback. Who was I looking at?
Quarterback? Joe Milton.
Joe Milton. Now I did a little bit. The reason why I had to look into Joe Milton is all the reports that I have seen say this guy's got the best arm in football. Certainly the best arm in college football.
Yes.
And as I continue to look down the thread, look, I do not have an arm like Joe Milton. I do not have an arm like any college quarterback in the world.
No.
Just like
unless Chad Pennington's walking through that door.
Thank you. But I do realize that I have one thing in common with Joe Milton. We have no touch. All we do is throw bullets.
I thought you were going to say you have an E in your first name.
Well, that too. Well, the problem with the scouting report that I've seen is that he throws every pass the same. Every pass is a bullet. So when you have a 5-yard step and a drop, you're not going to throw a 99-mile-per-hour pass. So maybe he can move. Maybe he can work on that. Hopefully. Okay, we're going to go into our last 5 minutes. I know you have to go, and I am, quite frankly, losing my voice. So do you have anything, kind sir?
Another sad farewell. Richard Lewis died.
The comedian?
Yeah.
Aww.
He died. And in a straight, I think he's actually in one of those weird things. He's going to pop up on Curb after he died. So he died a short time ago. So condolences to him and his family. He's actually one of my favorite stand-ups for years. I'm getting a little tired. I think this is the problem with your 24-hour sports. Is there so much talk about what happened to Kyle Filipowski, everyone going on the floor. This is part of being in college. This has happened 87 million times. This is the first time we've ever seen an injury from it. I don't really think. I think there's an over exaggeration and embellishment of how of really where this goes.
Yeah, you think it's an overreaction?
It's blown out of proportion. Blown out of proportion.
I would agree with you. And if you look at it, I'm not really sure that he didn't initiate the contact to begin with. So that's just my take on it. And maybe I'm against everything that Duke stands for. And the guy had Syracuse on his list until Duke came aboard, and then all of a sudden he was gone. Maybe I have something against Duke, just in general, and that's quite possible. Okay, so spring training started a couple of days ago. Look, the best thing about spring training, everybody's back, right? Everybody's whole. You got players like Casey Mize, who threw for the first time since his Tommy John surgery. You got Byron Buxton, who's one of my favorite players.
Wow, that's a name I haven't heard in a while.
He's back after 2 years of knee issues. What's that for the Twins? Yep.
Twins?
You have Yamato in his first spring training debut. Spring training means that, and it's ironic because this morning I woke up in Atlanta, first time, at least this year, in this season, I heard the birds chirping. It means spring is here. And all I need is some grass cut and get that smell, and I'm good to go. But one other thing, congratulations to the Chicago Cubs. You did what most teams could not do. You beat Scott Boras, and you beat him by patiently waiting. And I wish more teams would do this. If you're an owner and you want to complain about players getting more and more and more, you are your own worst enemy. And I'm not saying they're right. I'm not saying the owners are right. I'm not saying the players are right. Somebody's going to get that money. Why should it not be the players, truth be told, right?
Yep.
I mean, you go into the owners' pockets. But at the same time, the only reason ownership in MLB wants a salary cap is salary restraint by themselves, of themselves, so they can't continually make mistakes. And so congratulations to Tom Ricketts and to Jed Hoyer for waiting out Scott Boras. I got a feeling that he's going to get it back, though. So, I mean, Bellinger's going to have like a 20-year contract next year, so he'll opt out.
Hopefully not with the Yankees.
Hopefully. For Seth Kamens is over there. I'm Sean Palmer over here. We'll see you next week. Have a good week, everybody. Bye-bye.
Have a good one.